Hey guys, Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics back here from my kitchen with some breaking news that will definitely alter my upcoming video on President Barack Obama's legacy. Um, in his final days, Barack Obama has been issuing um, commutations and pardons, and he has commuted Chelsea Manning's sentence. Chelsea Manning was sentenced to 35 years in prison. President Obama has commuted that sentence, and she will be now let out of prison in May, so 5 months from now. Let me read you the story real quick. President Obama on Tuesday largely commuted the remaining prison sentence of Chelsea Manning, the Army intelligence analyst convicted of an enormous 2010 leak that revealed American military and diplomatic activities across the world, disrupted the administration, and made WikiLeaks, the recipient of those disclosures, famous. The decision by Mr. Obama rescued Miss Manning, who twice tried to commit suicide last year, from an uncertain future as a transgender woman incarcerated at the male military prison at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. She has been jailed for nearly 7 years, and her 35-year sentence was by far the longest punishment ever imposed in the United States for a leak conviction. Now, under the terms of Mr. Obama's commutation, announced by the White House on Tuesday, Miss Manning is set to be freed in 5 months, on May 17th of this year, rather than in 2045. The commutation also relieved the Department of Defense of the difficult responsibility of her incarceration as she pushes for treatment for her gender dysphoria, including sex reassignment surgery that the military has no experience providing. This was previously Private Bradley Manning, and once in prison, went about the transgender process. Sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but she was a man and has converted to the gender of a woman. In recent days, the White House has signaled that Mr. Obama was seriously considering granting Miss Manning's commutation application, in contrast to a pardon application submitted on behalf of the other large-scale leaker of the era, Edward Snowden, the former intelligence contractor who disclosed archives of top-secret surveillance files and is living as a fugitive in Russia. Asked about the two clemency applications on Friday, the White House spokesman Josh Earnest discussed the, quote, pretty stark difference between Miss Manning's case for mercy with Mr. Snowden's. While their offenses were similar, he said, there were some important differences. Quote, Chelsea Manning is somebody who went through the military criminal justice process, was exposed to due process, was found guilty, was sentenced for her crimes, and she acknowledged wrongdoing. End of quote. New quote. Mr. Snowden fled into the arms of an adversary and has sought refuge in a country that most recently made a concerted effort to undermine confidence in our democracy. Oh my God. So Snowden, let's blame Snowden for Russian hacking. Hey. He also noted that while the documents Miss Manning provided to WikiLeaks were, quote, damaging to national security, the ones Mr. Snowden disclosed were, quote, far more serious and far more dangerous. Parentheses, none of the documents Miss Manning disclosed were classified above the merely secret level. Miss Manning was still known as Bradley Manning when she deployed with her unit to Iraq in late 2009. There she worked as a low-level intelligence analyst, helping her unit assess insurgent activity in the area it was patrolling, a role that gave her access to a classified computer network. She copied hundreds of thousands of military incident logs from the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, which, among other things, exposed abuses of detainees by Iraqi military officers working with American forces and showed that civilian deaths in the Iraq war were likely much higher than official estimates. The file she copied also included about 250,000 diplomatic cables from American embassies around the world showing sensitive deals and conversations, dossiers detailing intelligence assessments of Guantanamo detainees held without trial, and a video of an American helicopter attack in Baghdad, and two Reuters journalists were killed among them. I'm not going to read the rest of the story. I was reading from the New York Times. So first and foremost, hey, you got to give credit where credit is due. President Barack Obama did the right thing here, and you have to give him a load of credit. I'm going to get to the Snowden part in a minute, but the bottom line is he could have just let Chelsea Manning rot in jail for the next 35 years. Frankly, I don't want to predict the future, but considering she has tried to commit suicide before, she might have been successful in that venture if she stayed. Obviously, being in prison, whether you are there because you did the crime or did not do the crime, can be a very isolating, depressing thing. It's very common for people to kill themselves or try to kill themselves in prison. Most importantly, President Obama did the right thing because she is a hero. She's not a traitor. When you go as a soldier to the United States military, at the time, it was Bradley Manning, you are sworn to protect against foreign and domestic enemies. Chelsea Manning, at the time, Bradley Manning, exposed war crimes. Okay? Chelsea Manning exposed the United States government in concert with the Iraqi soldiers, perpetrating war crimes. It's that simple. Obviously, the corporate media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, the New York Times, Washington Post, say the U.S. military can never do any wrong. The United States is super duper awesome, right? These are the same people that led us into going into the Iraq war, that are trying to lead us into going a nuclear showdown with Russia. Chelsea Manning is a hero. Right on cue, you got neocons on CNN, Bill Kristol's on, slamming Obama for commuting Chelsea Manning's sentence. But Obama did the right thing here, because the bottom line is, whether it's a journalist exposing corruption, war crimes, or it's a United States soldier, Chelsea Manning did what she pledged to do, and that's protect against foreign and domestic enemies. And when the United States military, in alignment with the Iraqi military, was perpetrating war crimes, was trying also to cover up the amount of civilian deaths in Iraq, that is war crime. That is against the law. And Chelsea Manning had a duty, and other soldiers have a duty to expose that and not follow those orders. So Obama did a great thing here. I give him a load of credit. And now I'm going to bash his brains out otherwise. That's what I love about the Young Turks. I could bash the hell out. I could credit Obama in one turn, and then I could bash him in the next. So I applaud you. You did the right thing when it comes to Chelsea Manning. If you're coming to this late, Chelsea Manning will be out in 5 months, in May, as opposed to 35 years. President Obama has a lot of crimes on his consciousness. He has a lot of things that he turned the other eye for, but at least in this case, he did the right thing. Now, for President Obama, his press secretary to try to make the case that Chelsea Manning deserved commutation, but Edward Snowden does not deserve to be pardoned is ludicrous. 110% ludicrous. Edward Snowden should be pardoned. The fact that Obama is pardoning Chelsea Manning today, in fairness to Obama, there is a chance that he could pardon Edward Snowden. If he wants to go for full dramatic impact, maybe he does it Thursday on his last day in office. I think that the fact that he commuted Chelsea Manning, but as of right now, he has not made a pardon of Edward Snowden. I would be highly surprised if he pardons Edward Snowden. I'd be shocked. I think if he was going to do it, it would have came alongside commuting the sentence of Chelsea Manning. So he might surprise us on Thursday or tomorrow. But as of now, I would expect him not to pardon Edward Snowden. But for Josh Earnest and President Obama to try to compare apples and oranges, and well, Chelsea Manning, she was tried in a military court. Edward Snowden fled. Chelsea Manning never shared anything that was above secret level. Edward Snowden did. Chelsea Manning, the quote that he used about Snowden was, and he fled to a country that was involved in, distorting and influencing our election. Edward Snowden and what he did has nothing to do with your fear-mongering that the Russians influenced our election, which all of you know my take on that. That has nothing to do with it. And the fact that you're even linking that Edward Snowden fled to Russia with what the Russians did. It's not Edward Snowden's fault that you guys, are the corporate Democratic establishment, lost. So trying to link what he did with the Russian, let me read you the quote again because I think it's ridiculous. Hold on. Mr. Snowden fled into the arms of an adversary and has sought refuge in a country that most recently made a concerted effort to undermine confidence in our democracy. No. What Edward Snowden did was expose that we don't live in a democracy. That's what Edward Snowden did. By showing how our military, how the NSA, how our intelligence really works, he was showing that he was dropping the curtain. And that is brave. That is a heroic act. He put a lot on the line. He left his life. He left his girlfriend. He went to Russia. Not exactly where I'd want to live the rest of my life, to tell you the truth. And the documents that he released are not so on another planet different than what Chelsea Manning released. So to even try to make that distinction, they're different in terms of what is the context and what is the actual documents that they released. But they're exposing the same thing, and that is war crimes, government intruding in your privacy, breaking the line between freedom and security. Edward Snowden should be commended for that. So, granted, again, Obama might pardon him. Maybe he'll do it tomorrow. Maybe he'll do it Thursday in a last-ditch effort. Maybe this is kind of the slow middle finger that Obama is giving to the neocons, even though I think Obama is a neocon. But the bottom line is, you got to give Obama credit for commuting Chelsea Manning, but you also have to criticize him if he does not pardon Edward Snowden, because those two cases are not different. Edward Snowden, really the difference is Edward Snowden, his story was elevated a lot more in the media than the case of Bradley Manning, now Chelsea Manning. That's the main difference. They're both heroic in their own way, Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden. But Edward Snowden got more of the spotlight thanks to great reporting by Glenn Greenwald. At the time he was with The Guardian, now The Intercept, and other great reporting. That's why Edward Snowden was made into, is he a hero or a villain or a traitor, whatever. That's why there's been movies about Edward Snowden, but not Chelsea Manning. Well, maybe there has been, and I just haven't seen. But make no mistake, you got to credit them on one end, but on the other end, if they're trying to compare apples and oranges and, on one end do the right thing, but on the other end do the wrong thing, we got to call them out for continuing to doing the wrong thing. Because what Chelsea Manning did and what Edward Snowden did, they released different types of documents and information, but what they exposed were very similar, and that's the government, the military, the intelligence, and most importantly, the military-industrial complex in this country. Evil acts against United States people, against Iraqi people. So, and make no mistake about it, in terms of Chelsea Manning, listen, I'm not going to fearmonger, I don't know, but it's very likely she would not have lived for 35 years, whether she was killed or took her own life. Like, they don't view transgender people that well in Fort Leavenworth prison, or any prison, frankly. But Obama, you got 48 hours. So you still have a chance to do the right thing. You should pardon Edward Snowden. I'm sure you're going to be hearing about this on the Young Turks in a little over an hour. But Obama did the right thing on Chelsea Manning. I could see CNN already. They got the neocons on, and the corporate media is up in arms. How could you do this? She released all this sensitive information exposing us. And I will say one last thing. Obama should also pardon Peltier. I might be mispronouncing that. Leonard Peltier. He should be pardoned too, because that's a nonsense case. And also Red Fawn of Standing Rock. Free Peltier, free Red Fawn, pardon Snowden. Obama, if you want your legacy to improve, if you want your legacy to be more than just a bought-off corporate neocon, you got 48 hours. Nobody's stopping you. Do the right thing. But, like I said, Chelsea Manning will be out in May. And Edward Snowden, if Obama does the right thing and is pardoned, will be pardoned as well. But as of now, Obama has not made an announcement on that. But from the comments they made, basically trying to differentiate Chelsea Manning from Edward Snowden, it doesn't sound to me like they will pardon Edward Snowden. So that's the deal. Subscribe, youtube.com/TYTpolitics. I did another video earlier on breaking news in Standing Rock. I did another video on the Young Turks YouTube, which is up now on the Young Turks YouTube, with some friendly advice for good old Bernie. And I'll be doing some videos tomorrow. So thanks, guys.